Concern over the federal government's new censorship bill, C-63, guys. Hey, it's Marcel, Ernie Racing News here on February 29th, 2024, as I have my morning latte. We're going to take a look. This is a very important article. I read it and I'm like, I got to reread it to you guys. The government claims Bill 63 would keep Canadians safe from, quote, online harm. Do you hear my voice there? So, Toronto. The government introduced the Online Harms Bill C-63 this week, which is the federal government's latest attempt to censor expression in the name of keeping people safe from harmful online content. However, the bill is overbroad, replete with ambiguous language, empowers government censors, and contains draconian penalties. If enacted and strictly applied, it will result in substantial and pervasive online censorship. It means people like me, giving you guys the news, in my opinion, could go to jail. And when I say go to jail, it could be a life sentence. This is how crazy this stuff is, guys. While the Democracy Fund acknowledges that the government is justified in protecting against some harms, such as those that sexually victimize children, regulating other content such as expression that, quote, foments hatred, end quote, threatens to suppress speech that may be offensive but not illegal. Just a little sidebar here.
Agencies that knew that are the agencies that shut down the schools for 2 years. Who does that? Who takes away the support system for these children? Who takes them away and shuts it down? And by the way, when they shut it down, they stopped the mandated reporters from being able to see children that were being abused and sexually molested, and in fact sent them home and abandoned them to their abusers with no way to watch, and referrals dropped 50 to 60%. So
there was also a pandemic going on. They were trying to save
kids' lives. Remember, we know a lot of folks who died during this. So it wasn't, people weren't laying around eating bond, but, well, you know what? We're lucky. Maybe we're lucky they didn't, because we kept them out of the places that they could be sick, because no one wanted to believe we had an issue.
Are you saying no school children died of COVID?
I'm saying it was the safest group. They were the less vulnerable group, and they suffered and will suffer more from the mismanagement of COVID than they will from the exposure to COVID, and that's not an opinion.
The bill effectively reintroduces S-13 of the Canadian Human Rights Act, the notorious internet censorship provision that had been used to prevent online news outlets from discussing controversial subjects. Over time, S-13 had metastasized beyond its original purpose until it had come to allow for private prosecutions of individuals and news organizations for alleged, quote, hate speech. Prior to its repeal in 2014, the section was roundly condemned as overbroad and punitive. In addition to empowering the Canadian Human Rights Commission, the bill creates a Digital Safety Commission, a Digital Safety Office, and a Digital Safety Ombudsperson, whatever the hell that is. More government workers, it looks like, who have no clue what the hell they're doing and just sucking at the teat. Continuing, a vast new bureaucracy that would censor online speech through coercion of and coordination of social media companies. The bill would threaten social media companies with heavy fines if they fail to, quote, minimize the risk that users of the service will be exposed to harmful content, end quote. Rather than risk fines and prosecution, companies like Facebook and Twitter would most likely remove any material that could conceivably constitute, quote, harmful content, resulting in sweeping censorship of marginal speech. The bill also requires social media companies to provide a mechanism for users to flag content that they believe is harmful, making them agents of the surveillance state. Pretty soon the thought police will be coming for us, guys. What does this remind you of? 1984. Where your neighbors are your enemies. Everyone is your enemy because they work with the government, who is the enemy. The criminal code would be amended to make any offense punishable by life imprisonment if it was motivated by hatred based on identifiable grounds such as race or gender. However, courts are already required to consider, quote, hate as an aggravating factor on sentencing. The theoretical imposition of a life sentence for a minor crime is also improper, given that a sentence must be proportionate to the gravity of the offense and the degree of the responsibility of the offender. Perhaps most troubling is that the bill would allow for, quote, pre-crime, end quote. Bam, right there, 1984, pre-crime, thought police. It would amend the criminal code to allow a person to ask a court for a type of restraining order if they had reasonable grounds to fear that another person will commit a hate crime. Wow. Under certain conditions, the court would also have the power to order the person to wear an electronic monitoring device and obey a curfew. Curfew, guys. The bill attempts to define hate as, quote, vilification and detestation, but the language is ambiguous and subjective. Thus, as with all such legislation that concerns speech acts, it will be selectively applied to disfavored parties and political opponents. For example, in a 2016 case, a pro-life group from Alberta was accused by the city of Grand Prairie for propagating hatred against women for comparing abortion to murder in its advertisements. Oh, yeah. Bunch of malarkey, huh? While there was no judicial finding on the issue, city lawyers deemed the comparison to be hateful. Hate crime prosecutions also inordinately affect racialized, marginalized, and low-income communities since they are often the target of government IRE and fare poorly in the judicial system. Senior litigation counsel for TDF, that's the Democracy Fund, warned, quote, this bill is a Trojan horse. If allowed to pass, it would quickly release an army of bureaucrats and social media censors on the Canadian public. The threat of criminal sanctions and years of litigation at a human rights tribunal would silence most citizens from speaking on controversial subjects. The bill should be rejected by anyone who values their free speech rights. Bam. Here you have it, guys. I got the book in front of us, The Theory and Practice of Allegorical Collectivism by Emmanuel Goldstein, guys. This is in the book, 1984. And we're going to go forward here to talk about thought police and etc. Okay, this section is really good. War is peace. We're going to on page 252. The war, therefore, if we judge it by the standards of previous wars, is merely an imposture. It is like the battles between certain ruminant animals whose horns are set at such an angle that they are incapable of hurting one another. But though it is unreal, it is not meaningless. It eats up the surplus of consumable goods, and it helps to preserve the special mental atmosphere that a hierarchical society needs. War, it will be seen, is now a purely internal affair. In the past, the ruling groups of all countries, although they might recognize their common interests and therefore limit the destructiveness of war, did fight against one another, and the victor always plundered the vanquished. In our own day, they are not fighting against one another at all. The war is waged by each ruling group against its own subjects, and the object of the war is to make or prevent conquests of territory. It's not for conquest of territory, but to keep the structure of society intact. The very word war, therefore, has become misleading. It would probably be accurate to say that by becoming continuous war has ceased to exist. It would probably be accurate to say that by becoming continuous war has ceased to exist. The particular pressure that exerted on human beings between the Neolithic age and the early 20th century has disappeared and been replaced by something quite different. The effect would be much the same if the three superstates, instead of fighting one another, should agree to live in perpetual peace, each inviolate within its own boundaries. For in that case, each would still be a self-contained universe, freed from the sobering influence of external danger. A peace that was truly permanent would be the same as a permanent war. This, although the vast majority of the party members understand it, is only in a shallower sense. In the inner meaning of the party slogan, war is peace. Sorry, that's a tough one to get out. Okay, moving along, guys. This is about Big Brother. We've all heard of Big Brother. It's big government, big control, big scary, right? I'm going to jump in the second paragraph. Given this background, one could infer If one did not know it already, the general structure of oceanic society, at the apex of the pyramid comes Big Brother. Big Brother is infallible and all-powerful. Every success, every achievement, every victory, every scientific discovery, all knowledge, all wisdom, all happiness, all virtue are held to issue directly from his leadership and inspiration. Nobody has ever seen Big Brother. He is a face of the hoardings, a voice on the telescreen. He may be reasonably sure that he will never die, and there is already considerable uncertainty as to when he was born. Big Brother is the guise in which the party chooses to exhibit itself to the world. Like, the Big Brother is the marketing of the government. His function is to act as a focusing point for love, fear, reverence, emotions which are more easily felt towards an individual than towards an organization. Below Big Brother comes the inner party. Its number is limited to 6 million or something less than that, 2% of the population of Oceania. Below the inner party comes the outer party, which, if the inner party is described as the brain of the state, may be justly likened to the hands. Below that come the dumb masses, whom we habitually refer to as the proles, numbering perhaps 85% of the population. That's you and me, guys. We're the proles. The inner party is the liberals. Or no, wait. Below the inner party comes the outer. So the liberals are the inner party, and then the NDP or the people that support them are the outer party, you know, the ones making tons of money off of the inner party, and then we're the proles. In principle, the membership of these three groups is not hereditary. The child of an inner party parent is in theory not born into the inner party. Okay, we'll skip ahead. Okay, this part's really good. I know we're kind of off topic of the initial video, but as I read this, I just find little things I want to share with you. A party member is expected to have no private emotions and no respites from enthusiasm. He is supposed to live in a continuous frenzy of hatred of foreign enemies and internal traitors, triumph over victories, and self-abasement before the power and wisdom of the party. Self-abasement before the party. The discontents produced by his bare, unsatisfying life are deliberately turned outwards and dissipated by such devices as the 2 minutes hate and the speculations which might possibly induce a skeptical, rebellious attitude are killed in advance by his early acquired inner discipline. All right, now we're moving on to kind of the new speak, guys. The first and simplest stage in the discipline, which can be taught even to young children, is called in new speak, crime stop. Crime stop means the faculty of stopping short, as though by instinct, at the threshold of any dangerous thought. It includes the power of not grasping analogies or failing to perceive logical errors or misunderstanding the simplest arguments if they are inimical to exoc, and of being bored or repelled by any train of thought which is capable of leading in a heretical direction. Crime stop, in short, means protective stupidity. But stupidity is not enough. On the contrary, orthodoxy, in the full sense, demands a control over one's own mental processes as complete as that of a contortionist over his body. Oceanic society rests ultimately on the belief that Big Brother is omnipotent and that the party is infallible. But since it's in reality Big Brother is not omnipotent and the party is not infallible, there is need for an unwavering, moment-to-moment flexibility in the treatment of facts. The key word here is black-white. What it means is newspeak words here. This word, newspeak, has two mutually contradictory meanings for the black-white. Applied to an opponent, it means the habit of impudently claiming that black is white in contradiction of the plain facts. Applied to a party member, it means a loyal willingness to say that black is white when party discipline demands this. It demands them to lie to themselves, black is white. But it means also the ability to believe that black is white, and more, to know that black is white, and to forget that one has ever believed the contrary. Can you believe this, guys? Sorry, my own interjection. Can you believe it? You have to, black is white. You have to know that black is white if you're in the inner party here, or everybody. But you have to also hear it so much that you actually believe black is white. This demands a continuous alternation of the past made possible by the system of thought which really embraces all the rest and which is known in newspeak as double think. The alteration of the past is necessary for two reasons, one of which is subsidiary and, so to speak, precautionary. The subsidiary reason is that the party member, like the proletarian, tolerates present-day conditions partly because he has no standards of comparison. He must be cut off from the past, just as he must be cut off from foreign countries, because it is necessary for him to believe that he is better off than his ancestors, and that the average level of material comfort is consistently rising. But by far, the more important reason for the readjustment of the past is the need to safeguard the infallibility of the party. It is not merely the speeches, statistics, and records of every kind that must constantly be brought up to date in order to show that predictions of the party were in all cases right. It is also that no change in doctrine or political alignment can ever be admitted. For to change one's mind or even one's policy is a confession of weakness. Wow, guys. We're going to stop it right there. That's a whole nother 9 minutes, but I really recommend you guys get on there. I just downloaded the whole book right here, 394 pages on a PDF. Ernie Racing, guys. We are living, when you read this book, you realize this is where we are. We're in it already, and we're moving forward exactly with it. It's crazy.